I'm going to start this unit by reviewing evaluating functions. So just remember, whenever you see function notation, so the name of a function followed by something in parentheses, what that is telling you is that whatever you see in parentheses gets plugged into the function in place of the x, whether it's a number, a variable, or a combination of the two. So whatever you see in parentheses is what gets plugged in. So for example 1, we're given the function x squared minus 2x, and we're first asked to evaluate f of 1. So this is saying that everywhere we see an x in this function, we're going to replace it with a 1, which would look like 1 squared minus 2 times 1. And then to simplify this, 1 squared is 1, minus 2 times 1 is 2, and then 1 minus 2 is negative 1. F of negative 2, so everywhere we see an x in this function, we're going to replace it with a negative 2. So that would look like negative 2 squared minus 2 times negative 2, which negative 2 times negative 2 is positive 4, and another negative 2 times negative 2 is another positive 4, and then 4 plus 4 equals 8. F of k, so this is saying that everywhere we see an x in this function, we're going to replace it with a k. So what that would look like is k squared minus 2k. And now this one doesn't have any like terms to combine, so that is our answer. F of x minus 1, so this is saying that everywhere we see an x in this function, we're going to replace it with an x minus 1. So what that would look like is x minus 1 quantity squared, plugging in place of this first x, and then minus 2 times x minus 1, plugging it in place of the second x. And then to clean this up, we can FOIL the first x minus 1. That'll give us x squared minus 2x plus 1, and then distribute the negative 2 to get negative 2x plus 2, and then combining like terms, we'll end up with x squared minus 4x plus 3. Example 2, we're doing the same thing except we're starting with a different function. G of x equals the square root of 3 minus x. And we first want to find g of 3, so that's telling us to replace this x with a 3. So what that would look like is the square root of 3 minus 3, which 3 minus 3 is 0, and then the square root of 0 is 0. G of negative 1 is telling us to plug a negative 1 in place of this x, which would look like the square root of 3 minus a negative 1, which 3 minus a negative 1 is the same as 3 plus 1, which gives us 4. And then the square root of 4 is 2. G of x plus 3 is telling us to replace this x with an x plus 3. So what that would look like is the square root of 3 minus, and then in parentheses, x plus 3. Which means we need to distribute the negative. That'll give us 3 minus x minus 3. And combining like terms, the 3's will cancel, so that we're just left with the negative x underneath the square root. And g of x plus h is telling us to plug an x plus h in place of this x. So that will look like the square root of 3 minus parentheses x plus h, and then distributing the negative will give us the square root of 3 minus x minus h. No like terms there to combine, so this would be our answer.